Hey listeners, after the pod, don't forget to claim your free 2-week trial on the Better Yoga Online Studio. You'll get unlimited yoga and breathwork classes guided by expert instructors. We're a small women-owned business, and you signing up for the free trial really makes a difference. Now here's the show.
Hello and welcome back to the Better Yoga Podcast. I'm your host, Kari Harendorf, and I'm so thrilled to have my dear friend and colleague, Larissa Hall Carlson, back with me again for another Ayurvedically focused episode. Welcome, Larissa.
Thank you for having me back. It's so nice to spend some more time with you, Kari.
Always. Today we have a special reason why we're coming together to actually talk about something that is very near and dear to us and something that you and I have been co-teaching together for the last few years at one of our favorite places, Kripalu Yoga Center for Health and Wellness. The program that we are leading is Ayurveda and Yoga for Weight Loss. We're going to talk to you today a little bit about why and how yoga and Ayurveda are the best tools for weight loss, because yoga and Ayurveda will bring you back into your harmonious state, back to your optimal blueprint where you are in balance. And when a body is in balance, a body is healthy and well. So we're going to talk about Ayurveda as a root cause, or helping you to deal with the root cause, whether your weight gain is from stress, from burnout, from a Kapha imbalance, too much from a diet and a lifestyle point of view, rather than these more, I'll say like traditional but culturally accepted diets of fad way of eating or punitive calorie counting and restriction, which we know doesn't work or isn't a long-term plan for success. Also, you and I are both of the age, and the conversation now, thank God, has come to being really talking about the transition and different life stages and how that midlife transition can really be a time where a lot of women in particular have put on weight where they'd never had that issue before, or things have shifted around, and really talking about body image fatigue, and how Ayurveda can really invite a different conversation and different way of relating both to yourself and to what life brings. So
I love that so much, Kari, because as we all know, Ayurveda is a lifestyle, right? It's a full, sophisticated, beautiful system of medicine, but it is really about how we live life. And so in that regard, the topic of weight loss from the Ayurvedic perspective has to be addressed holistically. And as you've alluded to, so much of the weight gain that folks experience nowadays has to do with stress and burnout and hormone shifts and such. And Ayurveda doesn't treat any of those things in a silo. It's all looked at holistically. And so that allows us to create sustainable change, which is huge.
yes. And so just to begin to talk about what healthy weight means, it will be different for each individual, which is also what is so wonderful about Ayurveda. Is what is a prescription for me is going to be different for you, is going to be different for every single person, because what brings us out of balance is different, and our lives are all a little bit different. I mean, we have, same stressors, but how it shows up in each person is a little bit different, and how we respond to stress is different for each individual. So weight accumulation is a byproduct of imbalance, right? And so weight reduction, when the body comes back into balance, the weight will naturally come off. When we're making the right choices, the weight will come off. And I know that it's not the primary goal, right? When you start seeking a different way of living, when you start really embracing an Ayurvedic lifestyle, practicing yoga daily, other things start to fall away. And other poor choices, bad habits, or poor coping mechanisms will start to fall away, and it's a slow progression over time, right? Ayurveda is not about this drastic deprivation, cutting it out, because that would be considered rough, and Ayurveda doesn't like anything. So it's really this like 1 degree at a time change that then begets more wellness, right? You start feeling better and you're like, oh, I'm going to do that. And then I can add this and add this. So we'll talk about that. And that'll really be a lot of the basis of our 5-day program. But just in terms of giving folks the language, right? So we're going to talk about, for those of you that have not done a lot of yoga or maybe heard a lot of Sanskrit, the words Agni, which is our digestive fire. Okay, so you think about everything that you eat has to be cooked, right, in our body and digested. And when the Agni, the fire, is good and strong, everything you take in gets used to form good tissues, right? That's when someone whose hair is shiny and lustrous and whose bones are strong and their nails are nice and their skin is clear, like they have good digestive fire. Everything is being used. So you can think about it as your metabolism. And then ama would be the reverse of that. Ama is metabolic waste, toxins. So ama would be a byproduct of poor digestion or eating too much that your Agni can't digest, would then get kind of shoved aside for later. I think about my email inbox.
It's full of alma.
There's a lot of ama in my email inbox right now that I just said later. So ama and Agni have inverse relationships, right? The stronger your Agni is, the lower your ama is. The weaker your Agni is, the higher your ama is. And that's one of the main, I think, culturally, when we talk about weight gain, you can directly relate that to ama and stagnation, right? And then, Larissa, I want you to talk a little bit about just a brief overview for the doshas. Otherwise, you guys can go back and listen to an earlier episode where we talk about Ayurveda in more of a rudimentary, elemental explanation of it, but really talk about the different ways that the doshas show up and contribute to weight gain.
Yeah, there's so many components when we're talking about weight loss because, again, Ayurveda is a complete and thorough system of medicine. And often folks just think about Kapha dosha when we're talking about weight because Kapha dosha is the force that's made of water and earth element. It governs the spring season, which is when we're running our program. And it's the dosha that's really in charge of keeping the body calm, cool, and collected, relaxed. Kapha dosha is the force that is in charge of all of the cool liquids in the body. It is a protector dosha, so it governs the saliva in the mouth, the mucosa lining the lungs, the mucosa lining the stomach, the synovial fluid, the cerebrospinal fluid. Kapha dosha is like a cool, juicy, wet, heavy, grounded, stable force that gives us sweetness and compassion and generosity, as well as stamina and calmness and groundedness. And it is the force of spring. But because it is the energy that has the most substance, it is the dosha that accumulates most thickly. And so we can add on extra wetness when kapha accumulates, especially in the spring season. And that can look like extra water retention, puffiness, as well as feeling bogged down by mucus and congestion, foggy headedness, sluggishness, lethargy, lack of motivation, feeling kind of blah, stuck in the mud, as well as actual extra fat and extra weight on the body. So Kapha dosha is the dosha of weight. And a lot of that is for protection and cushioning, right? There are certain spots in the body that need extra protection. And so the adipose tissue and the fat tissue, the water, the mucosa, the fluids that are cool in the body are really meant to protect and cushion from life's stressors. So Kapha is kind of the main player when we're talking about weight gain and weight loss. But because Ayurveda is a complete and thorough system of medicine, there are so many other forces that are at play that are influencing Kapha's accumulation, like the Agni, the digestive fire or the fire of metabolism, and the Ama, the toxicity that can kind of clog the tubes and prevent good flow and good energy. And so let's look at that a little deeper. And we'll dig into this more thoroughly in the retreat, but essentially, Ayurveda would say that there are these three doshas, right? Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Vata is the force that's made of space and wind. It governs all the movements in the body, including the movement of breath, the circulation of the blood and beating of the heart, the movements of the joints and muscles while we're practicing yoga, the movements of nerve impulses through the nervous system, which I want to sort of put a pin in that, so that's really important, and all the movements of the thoughts through the mind. So Vata governs everything that moves. So if something's moving too quickly or chaotically or roughly, that can cause damage, harm, and discomfort in the system. So we want to look at Vata as being a player here in weight. We're going to talk about that. Now, Pitta dosha is a dosha made of fire and water. And so it's like a hot acid, like a hot liquid. It governs the microbiome. It is, I like to say, the cook and the janitor of the body. Pitta governs all of the digestive functions, the secretion of hydrochloric acid and all of the digestive enzymes that help to digest food and transform it. As well as Pitta governs the liver, helping to clear out the waste, helping to clear out the Ama, to burn off the Ama, to flush it and filter it out of the body, filter it and flush it out. So Pitta is incredibly important, not just on the level of digestion and filtering waste, but also Pitta is in charge of digesting information and life's experiences, life's difficulties, the slings and arrows, the traumas, the disappointments, the heartache, the stressors. Pitta is in charge of digesting that information and making sense of it, moving forward with it, learning from mistakes, learning from life's experiences, and being transformed into a healthier state. So they all interact when we're talking about weight gain and weight loss. Now, the most, the simplest way that folks gain weight is a Kapha kind of weight gain, where folks are eating too much and exercising too little, right? So taking too many calories and not having enough burning off of those calories. So it's a caloric equation. And this is a very common way to put on weight. A lot of folks, in the holidays, we eat lots of extra holiday treats and a lot of those thick comfort foods that are good for Vata winter season. But too much of that will create an accumulation of the Kapha dosha. There'll be too much water and earth element added to the body. Now, it's natural to gain a couple pounds in the winter. This is very normal. It's appropriate to put on just a little bit of extra cushion. Yeah, it's recommended. Thank you. We should have a little extra cushion
right now.
Yeah, here in Vermont, it's been like negative 11 degrees for the week. Yeah, so it's okay to have like a little extra cushion on the body right now, but just a little bit. A few pounds is natural and appropriate in the winter. And then when spring comes, we want to burn that off, right? And so that's a natural and appropriate way. But what happens for a lot of folks is that the holiday treats or too many comfort foods, those linger, those last, we stay attached to those, they keep happening for too long, and the body accumulates too much cushioning. And so the remedy is very simple. It's well known for everyone. Exercise more, eat less, right? It's a very, very simple caloric equation. And that's what folks have been doing in the fitness cultures for decades, right? And it works really well when the root cause is very simple. It's like eating too many comfort foods, not getting enough exercise, right? It's like cold out in the winter. Folks just want to like sit around and stream movies. And, right now it's the Olympics are on, and I could sit around and, eat pie and watch the Olympics. But too much of that is going to be problematic. The remedy is very simple. Right, kick up the exercise, lighten up the diet, and do that without any kind of aggression, right? Do that gently without force, but, kick up the agni, kick up the metabolism, add a little more oomph to the workout, a little more pep, a little bit more breath work to clear out the tubes, to clear out the ama, and voila, that weight will disappear. So that all sounds great, right? That all sounds so easy, and that we understand that.
Mhm.
But it's
Yeah,
not that easy.
it's not that easy because also Ayurveda 3-season diet, right? If we were truly eating organically in season, what's available locally, well, come spring, there isn't that much available. Nature's going to take care of that for you.
That's right.
And so the problem comes when spring comes and we're able to still eat the pie from the
Mhm.
berries that haven't even started growing yet, but we import them from South America. And we're still when the treat, which I have said this soundbite for a long time and I, read it somewhere and I loved it because the problem comes when the treat becomes the treatment.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. Say that again, Kari. I
Yeah.
love that.
The problem is when the treat becomes the treatment.
Mhm.
And that is so powerful and nuanced. And it's not, it is a calorie in versus calories spent equation. But what that doesn't take into consideration all the time is the nervous system
Mhm.
and why we're grasping for the treat instead of dealing with the stress of the job, the
Mhm.
comment that the spouse said to you, the fight that you had with the childhood injury that was never actually digested and
Mhm.
processed, and so the emotional eating or the stress eating,
Mhm.
or that going back to like it being too rough and too much deprivation,
Mhm.
your body is in survival mode
Yeah.
and you're holding on to everything that goes in. So even if you are eating less, you're not shedding because your body is still in protection mode and is still trying to just create more insulation between the environment that is stressful and you're and do you like
Right? It's like putting on that last night was the Super Bowl, which I didn't watch, but it's like putting on extra padding, right? That's what the body will do. And it's so this is where it gets complicated. And I think this is where folks really need a lot of support, right? To understand the second part. And I'm going to dig into that a little bit more, because what you're alluding to, Kari, is like the caloric equation is really simple when it's like a low stress, just like eating too much, exercising too little, no big deal. It's like we reverse that and eat with the seasons and start eating, kale and asparagus and broccoli rabe and all the sprouts that are going to come up in the spring. And then, the body will lose the weight. But the problem comes when the root cause of the weight gain is not purely Kaphic. It's not because of Kapha. The root cause is because of Vata or Pitta.
Mhm.
And this is a blind spot for folks. This is a big blind spot for folks. People commonly believe that the root cause of all weight gain is Kapha. It is not. It's usually not, actually, nowadays. The root cause of weight gain is in the realm of what you've just listed, around stress, nervousness, past traumas, undigested experiences, disappointments, grief, heartache, and things. So let's break that down doshically.
Okay.
So So just to repeat, if it's like a straight up Kapha kind of weight gain, there's not a lot of stress in that situation. It's just eating too much, exercising too little. So we reverse that, and it's simple to reestablish balance. But for a lot of folks, what happens is the three doshas are forces that rely on one another to create overall health and wellness in the body mind. Right? They're constantly interacting. They're not separate forces. And so they bounce off one another. They respond to one another. And because Kapha is the protective dosha, the cushioning dosha, the juicy, grounded dosha, it responds whenever Vata or Pitta are elevated significantly. So what happens for a lot of folks in weight gain is when the body's under a lot of stress. Could be going through a divorce, the loss of a loved one, being in a caregiving position, bouncing back from a surgery, having a really tough time at work, going through lots of tough things with family or kids, things like that. When the body is under and the system is under a lot of stress, the nervous system and the mind are really being worked hard, as well as the endocrine system. And Vata dosha is in charge of all of the movements of the mind and the nerves and the hormones, right? Vata is in charge of their circulation. And so if life is really stressful and someone is getting hit by a lot of intensity and life is just kind of coming at them, in the grind, then the nervous system and the endocrine system and the mind are to some degree under attack, right? They're in a very difficult situation. And this can happen for Pitta too, right? So when there's a lot of like overworking,
Pitta
exhaustion.
people tend to take on way too much, overfill the schedule. I mean, you think about the pitta time of life, right? Which is like the middle years, so
Mhm.
raising children, caring for parents. Like you are literally, to use another pitta metaphor, burning the candle at both ends, right? That burnout and the stress.
Save 15% on Ayurvedic products like oils, herbs, cleansing supplies, and more from Banyan Botanicals. Use the code 15KARI. That's 15 KARI. The link is in our show notes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have like Vata nervousness stress, and we have Pitta like burnout, fried kind of stress. Both of those put the system in a precarious position where the body's in like overdrive, and we tend to move into the fight or flight response, right? There's a lot of cortisol and adrenaline pumping through the system. And so when that's happening, when someone's under a lot of stress and the system is like overworking to respond to that, Kapha dosha does what Kapha dosha is designed to do, which is it adds cushioning, right? It's this beautiful, sweet, juicy dosha that comes in, and what it will do when someone's under a lot of stress because of Vata or Pitta, Kapha will just add a little water and weight as extra packing on, as literal protection over the endocrine system, over the nervous system, to protect from the constant onslaught of stress and anxiety. And so going through perimenopause and menopause is a time where many are experiencing an uptick in stress, a big uptick in stress, right? Hormones are shifting, life is intense, right? And so that's another time when Vata and Pitta get really elevated, and Kapha dosha will come in. It will just pack on a little water and weight to add some protection. And it's doing a good job. It's doing it's meeting its responsibilities to the body. And I think that's incredibly important to recognize, because the extra water and weight shouldn't be looked at as a bad thing, right? It's not a negative thing. When someone's under a lot of stress and Kapha holds water and weight to literally pack on this protective layer, that is the body in a beautiful example of self-protection.
Yes.
Right? It's a really sweet thing that Kapha does.
And I want to drive that home again,
Mhm.
Larissa, because so much of the diet culture is about shame
Yeah.
and thinking that your body is broken or that something is wrong with you. And your smart body is always doing the best it can and is always trying to restore balance. That's what it does. That's your body is the most incredible self-healing machine. And Kapha is the strength and the protector, like you said. And so that's just coming in, it's doing what it's supposed to do. Like, thank you, smart body. So if it's not calories in versus calories out, let's go back to root cause, which is stress, which is burnout, which is too much. Life is just like too much. And the more advances we get technically, the more productive we're expected to be. Like, this is not how a body is meant to, like, not move. It's not meant to, like, be only in the head all the time. Like, Ayurveda is all about root cause. And I want to shift or go further into that, into that notion that hating yourself is creating more disharmony in the body. You don't want to be at war where every cell in your body is fighting against itself. Right? We want to be compassionate. We want to start to actually ask the right question. Why? Why am I stressed out? What is causing me upset right now? And that's where the yoga, the practice of yoga, because not only will it help everything circulate and move, but the more you do yoga, for those folks listening, because I know a lot of our listeners come to us through the yoga platform, yoga allows space for deep listening. And the more advanced of a yogi you are, the better relationship you have with your internal landscape. The more you can really begin to notice when something shifts, just a small shift, right? You talk about this all the time, Larissa. That's when you want to really start to get at the imbalance, when it just starts to elevate, not like getting the horse back in when it's come out of the paddock and is like, running. We want to really start to get that, and so you begin to listen and notice when something is off. How are you feeling? They're like, how are you? Fine, right? But really, we're like, how am I? What do I really want in this moment? What will really nourish me is often not the thing that we reach for instinctively. So that it begins to shift the awareness, the self-observation, and the conversation we're having with ourself, which, as we know, psychology, like so many of our thoughts are repetitive and so many of them are negative. And so to begin to shift that around will create a lot of space for these old patterns to begin to let go. And you can think about that as a emotional shedding, which then will translate into a physical shedding.
That's exactly right. So it's really, what comes up for me, Kari, hearing you share it that way is, we're invited to approach the first step of the 8 limbs of ahimsa, non-harming to self or others in thought, speech, and action. We're invited to live with ahimsa in perhaps a different way, or to approach it from a different perspective, to apply ahimsa to weight loss. Right, to really get into the inquiry of what's behind the weight gain. If it's not just a strict, like, Kaphic equation, and the root cause is really because of a Vata or Pitta kind of stress or intensity or disappointment and heartache and such, then it really does require a different response. And so, if someone's under a lot of stress and holding extra weight and doesn't recognize that the weight is trying to protect, which is, what happens so much in this culture. Folks go right after the weight. Like, oh, there's extra weight, so I've got to exercise more, I've got to eat less, I've got to exercise harder, I've got to really diet, I've got to be, like super intense. Well, yeah, they're going to lose a little bit of the weight, that there is a caloric equation. But here's the thing.
Mhm.
What I think so many people get into is they get stuck in losing some of the weight, but it yo-yos, right? It comes back again. Or they can't drop the last 20 pounds, right? The last 30 pounds or something, because even if they're exercising more and eating less, Kapha's job is to protect. And so if they're still in a stressful stage of life, Kapha's going to burrow down like a bull and keep that extra weight on the body because that's its job. And so folks can get so stuck in a hamster wheel
Mhm.
of trying to exercise more and eat less and work a hardcore kind of diet and not get actually the results they're looking for. And again, it's because Kapha's doing something that's very compassionate and very, very protecting. And so, in addition to not losing the last bits of weight, it actually puts the system under more stress. If someone's already feeling a ton of stress and worry and grief and sorrow and sadness and such, and then they're doing a hardcore exercise program and diet, it stresses out the system exponentially more,
Mhm.
right? So the Ayurvedic approach to weight loss is to first identify what's the root cause. Is it a straight up Kapha root cause? That's easy to deal with. Is it a more common Vata or Pitta root cause? That is more complicated. It's more complex. And so the remedy is not going to be exercise more and eat less.
Right.
The remedy is going to be about deeper stress reduction and Vata and Pitta balancing. And this is where being on retreat and, being together in community and getting to like really dig into this theory and the curriculum and the lectures, and to be together as a group and to talk this stuff out and to have time to really explore it patiently and compassionately, I think that is incredibly valuable because sometimes we need to unpack that root cause. And it can be hidden, it can be buried, it can be out of the conscious mind.
Mhm.
And so to be able to slow down enough to really get at the root cause. What are the stressors? What are we holding on to? And can we approach the diet and the lifestyle, the self-care, the exercise, the entertainment choices, the relationship choices, from a position of gently smoothing off the rough edges, deeply soothing the body-mind, and then gently kicking up the Agni and boosting metabolism, gently getting the prana to circulate more gracefully, gently lighten up the diet so we get that caloric equation. But it has to be done with a lot of care and sophistication. It's very simple, but it's not easy. And there are many, many choices along the way that support one in carefully and mindfully reducing weight by addressing the Vata and the Pitta root cause and and going about it in a way where one feels more nourished, more
Mm.
happy, more, content, and approaching this from the lifestyle perspective. So we're going to change the how of eating, the when of eating, the what of eating, the way we're approaching the routine, the bedtime and wake time matter. Like we're really going to look at the
Right.
big picture, right?
Yeah, and that's so important. One of my favorite quotes that you say is when it's Vata or Pitta that's out of balance, the remedy is the same.
Mm,
Simplify.
mhm,
Remedy is to simplify.
mm,
And which is why having this program at Kripalu
mm,
is so nice
mm,
because we're starting on retreat. We're starting where the participants don't have to worry about. They're out of their daily grind, literally. Their meals are prepared for them. The meals are at the same time, right? We really delve into, like you said, the who, what, where, when, why, and how of eating, which is actually more important. If you're taking the care to buy the most organic whole food, or you're cooking it yourself, but then you are getting in the car and on the phone in the work meeting while you're driving to the next thing, it's like you're missing the point. And we're going to explain all of that there. But to be able to start on retreat where all these things are taken care of, you can begin to, 1, unplug, 2, unwind, 3, rest, and 4, begin to, in a very supported, compassionate container, look at these things that have been blind spots or places you didn't want to look at before, and really begin to get into that root cause. And we do a lot of journaling, we do a lot of releasing, we do a lot of nervous system care. I always think waking, it's about the nervous system, and that's what nobody is talking about when they're talking about, when you're getting these diet trends and diet hacks and weight loss hacks. Like, if you're not dealing with the why, it's not sustainable, right? You have to change the route that got you to where you are, or you're just going back to that yo-yo.
Right. And that's what's so beautiful about being like taking a week to go to a center in the woods on a lake with loads of organic, vegetarian food, and there's some non-vegetarian organic stuff too, but lots of really healthy food that's already prepared. We have mindful eating and silent dining
Silent
rooms.
breakfast.
The best. Starting the day quiet. It's the very best thing. It's my favorite time of day there. And then we do yoga practices together that are gentle and intermediate. Right? Nothing aggressive, nothing boot camp, nothing rough on the system, but enough to boost metabolism, get things going, iron out the tight spots, create more harmony in the body-mind through the yogic asana, pranayama, the breath work, and meditative practices, as well as being in community, learning about self-care practices, doing things like abhyanga, doing oiling massage and restorative yoga postures, going for walks on the trails, right? Soaking up nature, deeply unwinding, you know? And then there's the spa, which is such a great addition.
Well,
So,
it's really nice.
so
Yeah.
yeah, folks can go up and receive not only massage appointments and Ayurvedic massages, but also some talk support. And so there are counselors that folks can, book like a talk session and just kind of work through things that are coming up, which is really, really helpful. We also recommend, in general, when doing this kind of thing, it can be useful to talk to a counselor, talk to your therapist as you're going through an Ayurvedic approach to self-care, because a lot of things can bubble up. But the beautiful thing about being at Kripalu Center is like everything's right there. It's all there.
Yeah. And it's all there to support your wellness. People love Kripalu because they're like, it was transformative. It's a place of transformation.
We've had so much fun. We've done this several years in a row, and the guests, they just love being immersed there for the week, and there can be great change in a short period of time that's sustainable to take home. Yeah.
Yeah. And several students that have come on other things, and they're just, what was sparked there in the 5 days is continued on. Yeah.
Yeah.
And really transformative. Brought them back to who they truly are, which is so fulfilling.
Mm.
Um, I hope that this was food for thought for all of you. Good food, for good thought. And if it resonated with any of you, feel free to, we'll put the link in the show notes and check out our 5-day program that's coming up March 22nd to the 27th at Kripalu in Western Massachusetts. And Larissa, we have Larissa on often talking about ways to the seasons outside, help you thrive in the seasons outside, but also help you thrive in the seasons that are going on in your life. And it's always about balance. So thank you, Larissa, for joining me as always.
Absolutely, Kari. And friends can also, if they can't get to Kripalu, can come and join us online for our 5-day spring cleanse, Ayurvedic spring cleanse, which has the same components or similar components, just not in person.
Yes, so a lot of overlap of the learning. A guided 5-day Khichdi, Ayurveda gentle cleanse. A little bit more austere than our fall cleanse.
Yeah, that's true.
but very needed because of
Yes.
everything we were talking about, getting rid of the what Kapha is supposed to do and put on some extra weight for winter. Spring is the time to bring it off because you don't want to take that into summer.
Yeah.
So thank
Well,
you so
thank you
much,
so much,
Larissa.
Kari.
And
Thank
we'll
you,
link
friends.
we'll link in the show notes the dates of the spring cleanse too, but that's also available on betteryoga.net.
Be gentle with yourselves. Be gentle.
Yes. Much love to everyone. Thank you, Larissa. Bye.
Ciao.